a lead of 120 meters as they get ready to hit mark number 3. Off the beach like this, Todd, off this left-hand shoreline, you want to stay in what they keep calling a high mode out of this. You don't want to get yourself quickly out into the middle of the current. So on port tack, they're probably sailing a higher, slower VMG. On starboard tack, they'd be a little lower, a little quicker to get back into the shorefront as fast as they can. You are looking at the lead, the Americans on the left, the Kiwis bottom right, the defenders of the Cup, Oracle, Team USA, now going into another tack. Todd, we're watching these guys come back from what the whole sailing world thought was an absolute insurmountable hole. Not a chance can they do, and they just keep chipping away. Oracle, this is an exceptional comeback in the overall scheme of things. If you're Team New Zealand, my goodness, the doubts have to be creeping in, don't they? Well, you think about it, coming into this race, it was 8 wins to 5, and actually 8 wins to 7, but the Americans were docked 2 points prior to the America's Cup because of infractions found during the America's Cup World Series. So 2 points taken away. So the Americans actually have 7 wins. If they get this one, Kenny, we would be even 8 wins apiece, and both of them looking for the one knockout shot. As it stands, it's 8-5, and the win here for the Americans would take them to 8-6. Not over yet, though, this race. You just see that this line, 2 very different design philosophies, and this gain-loss line has not hardly moved. Really amazing how close in speed these 2 boats are and how close in maneuvering ability that they've become. Well, Gary, as they get set to hit gate number 3, they are absolutely hugging the left side of that course as they head towards the Golden Gate Bridge. I think New Zealand's got to think about the next downwind leg, not lose any more distance here, and then work that right gate to get out into the current. If they use the left gate, New Zealand's going to be in deep trouble. So much as the left side of the gate going upwind has been a bit of a conveyor belt with less current going down, you'll want to be on the left side heading the opposite direction, more current or flood coming in. Yeah, it's really a matter of how much apparent wind you can build. Sometimes the negative current downwind actually is a boost. It actually increases the wind speed, and you can make up for the fact that the current is against you. I'm not sure if we're at that crossover yet. You see that incredible current line. Welcome to San Francisco Bay, that current line right there. And both boats will have to do at least 1 tack to get to a mark, so that puts New Zealand in a very tough position. Instead of going to ley line here, they're going to do 2 more tacks so they can get that right-hand gate at the top of the mark. Still, this is not even close to being over. The Kiwis do not ever go away. There is a 40-minute time limit. There's 19 minutes to go, so no problem in making the time limit today. Well, Gary, I guess the big question as the Americans get close to gate number 3, is there a possibility of us getting a second race in today, despite the fact that we were delayed by almost 30 minutes? Well, for sure there's time to get a second race in. The question is, New Zealand want to have a second race? They have a card to play where they could take a time not do the second race today. We'll see if they want to have a second race.
Time out.
Yeah.
We used our cars that day. We got beat so bad.
And because of the extra tack, the Kiwis have closed the gap to the Americans. But it will be the Americans first at gate number 3, but they have the favorable side, and we'll see what the Kiwis decide to do. They pop right up on the foils in 14 knots of breeze, which means the code 0, at least at the top of the course like this, likely does not come into play. Neither of them even have it up at this stage. Meanwhile, on board Emirates Team New Zealand, the Challengers, all quiet. The second to last leg here on race number 16. Can the Americans hold on and force another race?
Sounds like they just went to commercial on the radio.
Well, Ken, like we saw yesterday, the Americans with that extra tack, and now look at the lead. Now, what we did see yesterday as well was the Americans hit some pockets of really light air, and that allowed the Kiwis to pull back in. Do you see that scenario playing out again? Oh, it absolutely could play out again. It's really, this is it, like Gary said at the beginning of this race, this is a tactician's show here right now. They just have to work on avoiding those little light spots. Don't allow yourself sometimes to get into a match race when so much depends on the breeze. Talking about a match on the hoist, which means if they go with a code 0 on Emirates Team New Zealand, you'll see Oracle go up with their code 0 right away. Following a jibe from the Kiwis, the Americans decide now is the time to make it happen. They are on leg 4 of 5. This is race 16, with the Kiwis leading 8 wins to 5. If New Zealand wins this race, they win the America's Cup. If the Americans win, the racing continues. The racing continues. The racing will never end. And sailors around the world just don't want it to end at this stage. It's such drama. It's amazing. But I'll tell you what, Oracle is one bad jibe away from losing this lead. The Kiwis, again, I keep saying it, this is the same lead we saw entire way up on that beat. This is a big call right now. This is a big split. The thing is, Oracle was heading for a light patch of water up by Alcatraz Island, and New Zealand basically dragged them away from the late end. So it is a huge risk what New Zealand just did. Oracle goes with them right away, though, Gary. You can see in those turns and the trails that the boats are leaving, you could see that actually Oracle had a little better jibe in that, stretched out a tiny bit. It's these tiny little things right now that are going to make all the difference in the world. A week ago, it looked like, and it was in fact, the Kiwis on match point. Just put the Americans out of their misery and end this thing, because that point it wasn't going so well. Then the Americans made some small tweaks to the boat. They made a crew change, and since then, it has been all Oracle Team USA. But since they've dug such a big hole and been hit with a 2-point penalty, the last 4 days, the winning streak really hasn't made that much of a difference other than digging them out of the hole, and now it's really race on at 8-5. Nice move by Oracle, just stay between the competition and the mark, right out of the textbook. Now, Gary, I think that Oracle just simply stays up on their foils a little easier in this light air. Everybody had written them off for changing their boats so much to be competitive in the breeze. They just don't seem to pop comp off their foils quite as easy as New Zealand does. I think it's the first time we've ever said that sentence.
Very impressive, Kenny, what Oracle's been able to do with their changes. And they're small changes, but the small changes are making a big difference.
Well, normally we can start a race as late as 2:39, 2:40 Pacific time is the local cutoff, and right now, Gary, that's less than a half an hour away. That means they would have to take away, if the Americans go on to win, their normal 30 to 35 minute halftime break. Are they willing to do that?
No, they'll keep to the same thing. They won't shrink it down. They'd have to get agreement by both teams. And if I'm New Zealand, I want to get back to the dock and reset.
Which would take us to day 14, and race 17 and 18 would be on for tomorrow. And Gary, any idea what the weather forecast is for Tuesday here in San Francisco?
Yeah, Todd, the weather's going to be good tomorrow. Stronger winds. We'll go back to our normal pattern. Good wind for the first race and right at the edge for the second race.
I'll tell you what, that Al Roker character, he better be quaking in his boots.
Oh, I love Al Roker. I'm a fan.
You're on it, Jabo. Here we go. The lead now approaching 240 meters. So the Americans staying true to match racing formats, just staying on top of the Kiwis. And Ken, at this stage, the Kiwis are basically throwing everything they can at them and hoping for a mistake. Yeah, still a couple more jives to go, though. That's really the only fear if you're an American fan, and the saving grace if you're a Kiwi fan. There's still a couple more jives to go, and let's just see who stays on their foils and who doesn't. But it looks like the breeze is up enough that they're probably both going to be just fine. At last check, breeze checking in at 14.2 knots. So the Americans having a great day up on the foils, and look at the speeds. Americans traveling at about 30 knots, the Kiwis close behind.
The big question I have here for the New Zealand team, what are they going to do to get a good start? They've lost 4 in a row. That's the difference in every race. They got to win and start if they want to get this cup.
Communication between Ben Ainsley, Tom Slingsby, and Jimmy Spithill is fascinating. Exuding confidence, really, in each other. There is never a second guess or a doubt. And those of us who have been in all kinds of afterguards our whole life, it's hard to do. At mark number 4, it's Oracle Team USA first to the gate and carrying a lot of speed as they head towards the finish line here in race 16.
It's nice to watch it do a dance along the building.
The Kiwis have kept this close, but it just doesn't appear to be enough.
Tail.
21 seconds behind is the delta for the Kiwis. Gary, what do you know about the second race today?
It's not going to be able to happen. Unfortunately, there's not enough time to get a start in between the 2:40 cutoff with the 32-minute in-between race. So we will not have a second race today.
So instead of the doubleheader scheduled for today on San Francisco, it looks like one and done. And for the Americans, they'll just be happy with that, getting the victory and extending this regatta into day 14. And the lead now is down to 8-6. And 2 races to go tomorrow, Kenny. We could be even on this thing with a showdown on Wednesday. You just have to wonder what in the Kiwis coaching room, what do they do? What do they like Gary said, they got to get off the starting line. Well, folks in America and down under, clear your schedule. We will be racing on Tuesday. Oracle Team USA gets the win. You have got to be kidding me. I mean, this is a comeback that not a single person in the world, never mind diehard fans in the United States, could even have predicted. And the final delta, yet again, for Emirates Team New Zealand is in excess of 30 seconds. They stopped the clock at 33 seconds. And a big bit of spray, and I do not think there'll be too many waves on board Emirates Team New Zealand, despite all the fans here from New Zealand who've made their way to San Francisco.
Awesome.